You got one more coming in if you want.
One more coming in?
Indeed.
Yes.
Got a quorum plus one.
Well, we're live.
And he doesn't need to sit at the end. You name things probably one closer.
Yeah,
That's okay. Well, we're ready whenever.
here. You can leave a space if you want.
He was running. Welcome to the November 16, 2023 meeting of the City of Highland Park's Zoning Board of Appeals. Patrick, if you'll take a roll call.
Yeah. Member Trushansky?
Here.
Member Beck?
Here.
Member Yvonne? Member Zaransky?
Here.
Member Hendrick? Vice Chair Bay?
Here.
Chair Collier?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. I'll have my colleagues had an opportunity to review the minutes from the November 2nd meeting.
Yes.
If so, I'll entertain a quorum, or I'll motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
So that was a motion by Vice Chair Bay with a second by Member Zaransky to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? One abstention. So it's 5-0 and 1, or 4-0 and 1. For the members of the public, is anyone here to discuss an item that is not on the agenda this evening? Not seeing any. We have no old business. That brings us to new business. Our first item this evening is VAR-2023-0009. The property at 1220 Eastwood Avenue. The appellant is Ryan Cummings. Patrick, do you have a presentation?
Yes. Perfect. So the application for 1220 Eastwood Avenue, the applicant is Ryan Cummings. The proposal is to construct a new shed that is encroaching into the front yard and subdivision building line. It's zoned R6 and meets the minimum lot area requirement. The existing home was built in 1952, and so the requested relief is to encroach into the required front yard of 25 feet by 20 feet along the Ridge Road frontage, and to encroach into the subdivision building line of 40 feet by 35 feet along the Ridge Road frontage. So here's just a zoning overview. It's located in the R6 next to R5 and R3 zoning districts. Here's just a quick aerial of the property. And this is the plot survey. So the dark blue line is the 40-foot subdivision building line. And the orange line is a approximation of the 25 front yard setback. This is the subdivision plat. Realize it's a little difficult to read, but this is just to signify that there are 40-foot subdivision building lines in this entire area of the neighborhood. The applicant, Ryan Cummings, in 2011 also received a approval order for a patio, a fence, and a seat wall that is all located in the same area as the encroachment for this case. It was approved in 2011, and it was all for encroachments in the subdivision building line and front yard setback. Here's just some property pictures along Ridge and the intersection. It's just indicating the 4-foot fence and some vegetation that they planted. And then this corner here is where, right behind here is where the shed would be located, and the picture on the right is just a kind of wide sweeping picture of the rear yard. Well, it's a front yard, but it's being used as their rear yard. So the proposed work is to place this shed 9 feet from the property line that is shared with their neighbor, 5 feet from the property line that is along Ridge Road, and the shed is 10 feet wide by 12 feet long and 10 feet 2 inches high. Again, these are just dark blue subdivision building line, orange is approximation of the front yard setback. And then I wanted to bring up this code section because while the relief is for front yard and subdivision building line setback encroachment, Sheds are allowed to encroach within front yards with corner lots. They just need to be 10 feet from all property lines. We just don't ask for a variance from this case because this is just a relief statement, so you need relief from the front yard setback requirement. But I just wanted to let you know that sheds are allowed within this area typically, but anything within a subdivision building line just requires a variance, as we've seen pretty multiple cases recently. This is just a drawing of the shed, pretty standard shed. And then we didn't receive any comments either from staff or from the public for this case. So just to repeat, this is an encroachment of 20 feet in the 25-foot setback for the front yard and a 35-foot encroachment in the 40-foot yard, 40-foot subdivision building line. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Member Beck?
So if this was a backyard, would they need a variance?
So if this was a backyard, if it was an interior backyard, you could place that shed 3 feet from any property line.
Thanks.
Member Zaransky?
To clarify further, if it weren't for the subdivision building line, they would not need a variance.
So they would still need a variance for this placement because it is within a front yard, but since it's a corner, it needs to be 10 feet from every property line. They're asking for 9 feet from the property line adjacent to their neighbor and 5 feet from the property line, Ridge Road. So it still would require a variance, but when you phrase it that way, it's not as significant as 20 feet for the front yard setback.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the diagram with the blue and the orange line? Yeah, that one will be fine. Okay, so and I know you haven't put it up there, but the approximate buildable area on this lot, if you take, I mean, at least on
It would be quite small.
it would be quite small.
Yes. The front yard requirement for Eastwood would be 25 feet. Is this mouse working? There it is. I'd approximate probably here. So yeah, it would cut off a lot here. It's a interestingly shaped lot, and
Yes.
it's an interesting shaped corner lot, and corner lots are always difficult.
So it's got different setback requirements on the two streets?
So
20 foot
because
on
of,
one side and 25 on the other?
because of the subdivision building line, yes, they have to meet 40 feet,
Okay.
which is above the R6 standard of 25.
So if they were going to put it on the other side of the house, they'd still have a 40-foot requirement?
No, they wouldn't have a 40-foot requirement on the other side of the
Okay.
house.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing, welcome. Member Hendrick is here for the record. Does the applicant like to come up?
We were wondering what your train was.
Do you hereby affirm or attest? Oh, first, if you'd give your name and address for the record.
Sure. So my name's Ryan Cummings. I live at 1220 Eastwood Avenue.
Do you hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I thought Patrick did a nice job of sort of laying out the framework and background of what we're trying to do here, just put a shed in our backyard, even though it's sort of classified as a front yard based on our unusual shaped lot. And really just, more background on why we're doing this. My 3 kids are getting older and older. We're accumulating more and more stuff. We've been using half of our garage as sort of a repository for that, but my oldest is, scary to say, a couple years away from getting a driver's license, so we need to find more space. And again, we're just looking to put a shed in the backyard. And that I know it's considered a front yard setback, but that really is our official backyard. Now, a little history, what we learned after we moved in, this property used to be an address on Ridge Road. It used to be 1219 Ridge Road. So the front yard we're actually talking about with the front yard setback used to be a front yard. I guess they changed it to Eastwood Avenue because the garage is closer to Eastwood Avenue, and now we sort of have 2 front yard setbacks or 2 backyards, sort of how you're looking at it. But happy to answer any questions the board has.
Any questions for the applicant? Not seeing any, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this application? Not seeing any. In that case, I will begin with Member Beck.
I'm in favor of this. I mean, it's a functional backyard, you know, having the hardship of 2 front yard setbacks in addition to the subdivision setback, extremely restricted. I think it's a reasonable ask. I think they meet the standards, and I'll vote in favor.
Thank you. Member Trushansky.
Sure. I agree with Member Beck that all the standards have been met. There's really not much to add other than what he said, so I am in favor of it.
Thank you. Member Zaransky.
I agree. I also, too, have not much to add, but I would support the variance.
Thank you. Vice Chair. Member Hendrick, are you going to say anything since you weren't here?
I mean, based on the packet, I would be in support, but I'll probably abstain since I missed the presentation.
Okay. Vice Chair Bay.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I have no problem with it. I think the standards are met, and I would support it.
Thank you. And I agree with my colleagues. The peninsula lot, as we call them, are very difficult, and especially then you add the setback requirements on top of that, and as Patrick alluded to, you'd have a very small area on which you could do anything, regardless of where you tried to set it on this piece of property. So I think the request is reasonable. It's a reasonable sized shed, and I would be in favor as well. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the approval order as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Member Beck will second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Vice Chair Bay with a second by Member Beck. Patrick, when you're ready, we'll do a roll call.
Member Trushansky?
Aye.
Member Beck?
Aye.
Member Yadlon? Member Zaransky?
Aye.
Member Hendrick?
Abstain.
Vice Chair Bay?
Aye.
And Chair Collins.
Aye. The motion is passed with 5 votes. Congratulations. Patrick will probably follow up with you tomorrow or early next week. You're welcome. Enjoy your shed. That brings us to the second item on our agenda this evening. It is application tree-2023-00284, the property at 1145 Lincoln Avenue South. The applicant is Xander Jacobs. Patrick, do you have a presentation?
I do.
No, true.
Okay. So, the property is 1145 Lincoln Ave South. The applicant was Xander Jacobs on behalf of ownership Chuck Cohen. This proposal is a heritage tree removal permit. It's located in the R4 LLFZ zoning district and meets the minimum lot requirements. The existing house was built in 1926. And now the requested relief is to remove 2 heritage trees, a 33-inch red oak and a 30-inch red oak, numbered 62 and 43 on the plan sets, to construct a new single-family home. I also want to note that this proposal is a Chapter 94 consideration and not a Chapter 150, so any of the structures are still set to zoning review and building code review. None of those have been reviewed. It's just for the heritage tree tonight. So this is a site location. It's well within the R4 zoning district, pretty near the lake. Just an aerial shot, and the 2 yellow stars indicate the 2 heritage trees that are in question for this. So starting with 43, it's the tree here. On the property, 43 is the 30-inch red oak, and number 62 is the 33 inch red oak that is located right behind the garage. Now, this is the Plata survey. This is the blue shading shows the existing house. The yellow stars show the heritage trees. And as we go to the next one, you can still see the blue shading. That is the existing structure. And then the gray shading is the proposed new single-family house that the applicant would like to construct. Again, yellow star are the heritage trees on the property. Now, the applicant also submitted for variations to try and signify their hardship. I'm not going to go too much into detail on them. I'll let the applicant walk through them, but I just wanted to put them up here on the slides just to kind of...
You mean alternatives?
Yes, what did I say?
Variations.
My bad. Yes, just all, yes. Okay. So yes, there was 4 of them. And then, so Forestry has a memo. We also have a member from Forestry here, staff member from Forestry here to answer any questions on tree-related questions. We didn't receive any staff review from building, or we did receive review from building engineering. They just don't have comments at this time. For public comment, we had one interested party apply. It's a form that you submit. And then we didn't receive any other public comments beyond that. So again, this is a Chapter 94 heritage tree removal permit to remove 2 heritage trees, a 33-inch red oak and a 30-inch red oak, according to the plan set, to build a single-family house. And then I also put on the intent and purpose of the application, or of the Chapter 94, is that the city is wanting to keep their tree population. But I just put it on here for the board to acknowledge. Yeah, so, and then this is the full section. It's just a lot of words. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We have Joe here as well. He's happy to answer them. Other than that, we could ask Cal and his team to kind of walk us through the alternatives as well.
Are there questions for Patrick? How do the trees, and again, you don't have it, it may be a slide you wish to present regularly in the future, but your predecessors have generally provided us with a diagram of the buildable area on the lot?
So the buildable area is, there's this dotted line here. I'm sorry, I guess I will red highlight that next time.
Okay.
But the house goes pretty much up along the entire buildable area.
Okay. So both trees are within, well, one's definitely within and the others, they're both sort of on the line of the buildable area then.
This one shows it a bit better. So it's the dotted line there. That's the buildable area.
Okay. So yeah, the drip area runs straight across the line in both cases.
Yes.
I have no other questions. Does the applicant like to join us?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. We're going to have 3 people testifying tonight if you wanted to swear us
So
in.
you all in it, if the 3 of you could come forward?
Yes.
If you will each provide your name and address for the record first?
I'll start first. My name is Cal Bernstein, 484 Central Avenue in Highland Park. Nathan Kipnis, Kipnis Architecture and Planning, 1642 Payne Street in Evanston.
Bruce Horrigan Tree, 2302 Meadow Lane in North Chicago.
Thank you. Do you all hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. So you've met our team that's going to be testifying and addressing the board tonight. The architect, Nate, he will be here to address the design, the alternatives considered, and why the alternatives are considered impractical. He will also discuss why removing those 2 trees is necessary for a reasonable use of the property. The arborist will address the conditions of the tree and the likelihood of those trees surviving whatever construction may be done on that property. I would like to remind the board that we're talking only tonight about 2 heritage trees. That this is the subject of the application. We did receive the notice from the neighbor with regard to other issues with regard to the property, but those are not before the zoning board this evening. After we hear from the architect and the arborist, then I'll come back up here and I will address the standards under, as Patrick noted, under Chapter 94, and I will address the concerns raised by the neighbor. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the architect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us describe this. That image that you're seeing on the screen, there's actually, there's the 2 heritage trees that we're referencing. There's also a neighbor's tree to what I'm going to call the south, the lower part, and there's a heritage, not a heritage tree, a tree in the back corner that, keep going to the left, that one. So those make up 30% of the site altogether. And you look at how those are laid out, you would have a hard time making that a worse location for building on this site. I suppose the absolute worst would be right in the middle. We did look at a number of things. The main goal of this was to provide frontage for a view out and to provide a backyard, a courtyard, and to have a driveway on the side. If you go to the one of the schemes, well, actually the scheme that has, I think it's probably back up. So this is the proposed plan, and without getting into much of the floor plan, we did color code it. The tan in the front is what I would call public areas, living room, dining room, that kind of thing, the foyer. And that's what we want to have the view out and have the facade be readable as. The blue in the back corner is the parking. We did not want to have the garages facing the front. The green area is kind of a utility core, so that's laundry and a mudroom and some other things. And then the bedroom wing is that reddish area. And this was trying to make the most of the conditions that we had. We did try and look at some other ways to do this. If you go to the first one on the next one. So this is an attempt at trying to dodge around those trees. The reason we did the wings, the narrow wings, is that you get light on 2 sides. We do a lot of sustainable work. My firm is very well known for that. We wanted to have lots of natural daylighting, lots of natural ventilation. You don't get that when you have a mass like this, when it's all slammed in together. This is showing a garage in the front, which is not large enough for what we actually need. So this scheme doesn't really work, but it does dodge around those trees. You go to the next one. This one was basically just trying to wedge what we had, just rotating it around, just to see what would happen with that. Same kind of thing where the garage is substandard, and obviously this alignment makes no sense at all. Go to the next one. This is also trying to dodge around the trees. We get a very wide section on the south side. Again, that's not optimal at all for what we want. We have a courtyard facing the wrong way. The front of the building has a substandard garage off to the side again, and it has the laundry mudroom also taking up the front. Go to the next one, please. And then this one was trying an L shape where we just said we are going to take out 43. So we were asked to do that by staff to just kind of see what would happen if we attempted to save 1. So now we have a garage on the other side that would be impacting the neighbor's large tree there, and we have a layout that's still too wide and still too bulky. So I think that's all of them. I can answer any questions you might have on this.
Any questions for Mr. Kipnis?
Yeah.
Vice Chair Bay?
I'm noticing in your submission, Mr. Kipnis, that you're talking about your client has requested a ranch home designed for aging in place. Would it make it a difference if you were able to do this on different stories and design a home that was not a ranch home?
That would change it a bit, absolutely. I mean, we would have one part of that. If you look at the diagram, you could probably put that part on top, but that's not what they want. A lot of our clients are asking for one-level living now.
I will also note the arborist would be able to address that next, about the condition of the trees and the likelihood of their survival with any construction on site. And I will note that Nate didn't bring it up, he's being a little modest about it, but this is a heavily wooded lot with other heritage trees, other protected and key trees, and so the gymnastics here was trying to wedge a house to preserve as many trees as possible. So the two trees, as the chairman noted, the canopy expands into the allowable building envelope significantly, and that handcuffs the ability to build a house on that property. And any direction you go besides that, you start impacting other trees and other significant trees. So it's kind of like a juggling act, trying to figure out, some trees have to go, which ones are going to go, and through a lot of design work, the consideration was the ones that are actually hovering over the building envelope were the proper ones, and try to preserve as many other trees as possible. So I'm going to turn over to the arborist so we can talk about the health of...
I guess the question that I'm trying to ask is if the footprint was, I'm assuming the footprint would shrink if it was a multi-level house.
Yes, and the arborist can answer that.
Would that affect
Yes.
the ability to save the trees?
Yes, and I'll let the arborist answer that question.
And we should probably put up the actual design. Thank you. The real one.
Chairman, board.
Yes.
How you doing? I'm an arborist. Been working on the North Shore for 48 years. I show it, as unfortunately as I'm getting older. But on these trees, number 43, the front yard tree, even if you were to build the house, and rebuild the house, tear it down, put up the new house, that tree probably would not survive the construction. It's just too close to the existing house. I mean, to where the house is right now. So any construction there would probably take that one out. The one in the backyard is actually the worst shaped tree. That has, actually there was one of these, I think it's the one without any building on it, the original. There was one, yeah, okay, see, notice where the trunk of the tree is right at the property line, at the building line. So if you go up to the building line, you're going to kill the tree. But then it's a one-sided tree leaning to the south. All of the weight on the tree is out towards where the house will be. The north side of the tree has been cut off over the years for many reasons. And interesting enough, I was looking at all the trees on that property. I do believe every single one of them got hit by the 2000 storm. The tops have been taken out of all of those trees over the years. And the best thing I can figure out, is as good as a CSI can do. I'm trying to guess what happened in the past. It appears that the tops of those trees were taken out. All of them are in stress. The one in the backyard, 63, has significant bore damage, visual signs. There is a fair amount of rot in the tree, and that one's the one that's leaning towards where any house is going to go. So it's sort of setting it up for a problem. To discuss, I'm going to bring in on the south side, the neighbor's tree is one of the bigger cottonwoods in the neighborhood. That tree is probably 50% bigger than the oak trees in height and in volume. Going towards the south side with the house to save the tree on the north is going to impact that tree very badly and would actually make me a little concerned about the viability of it being being able to tip. There are some major roots in the neighborhood of 6 inches on the surface going towards the, into the backyard and towards the existing house there. You'd have to be very careful if you were going south to not cut those roots, which could damage the structural integrity of that tree. Okay? Probably more information than you needed or wanted. Any questions?
That's your question, Member Bay or Vice Member Bay?
Somewhat. I'd like to hear from our arborist as well, but yeah.
Okay. Member Hendrick?
Yeah, that's my request as well. Maybe if we could have our arborist respond to that.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the standards, I'd like to address them individually, if.
Each tree individually or
No,
each standard?
Each standard, please. I'm not going to each tree. The first standard, based on the mandatory findings, is the removal of the heritage tree will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Looking at what's up on the screen right now, this is heavily wooded lot. Losing these 2 trees, which will most likely be, according to the arborist, lost anyway during any construction, will not change the appearance of how the lot looks from the street or from anywhere, anywhere looking, because, again, the lot is heavily wooded and will remain heavily wooded. The next standard is removal of the heritage tree will not materially be detrimental to public welfare, injurious to the enjoyment, use, development, or value of other property improvements in the neighborhood. Same comment, the lot will remain heavily wooded. It's not going to be clear-cutted. The existing tree canopy that will survive will help mitigate the loss of those 2 trees. Number 3, removal of the heritage tree will not impair the adequate supply of light or air to adjacent property. Actually, it would improve it. Increase the danger of fire, impair natural drainage, or create drainage problems on adjacent properties, or endanger the public safety, nor substantially diminish or impair property values. As in all new construction, as you're aware, a drainage and grading plan will have to be prepared. All the water will be trapped on this property, so no water will be running off on the neighbor's property. Number 4, there's no practical alternatives to the proposed removal of the heritage trees. We heard both from the architect and from the arborist that there is no practical alternative. I will note that the city forester in their memo noted that the trees' critical root zone will be negatively impacted regardless of which alternative is chosen. And we're talking about the 2 trees that are before the board tonight. And lastly, that the removal of the heritage tree is necessary for reasonable use of the property. As the chairman noted, there's a fairly large building envelope here, and as you can see, that the canopies from both of those 43 and 62 materially and significantly encroach into the building envelope, which would basically which prohibit the reasonable use of such a large lot in East Highland Park. The selective findings, this is not merely due to an inability of the owner or occupant to enjoy some special privilege. He's not looking for any other type of variations. He's going to meet the rest of the standards in the zoning code as to setback, height, and floor area ratio. And he's not asking for any right that's not available to other lots within the zoning district. In fact, he's just looking to build in an allowable building envelope. The heritage tree is necessary to be removed is necessary that are unique to this property. It's a unique situation with having 2 heritage trees encroaching so significantly into the building envelope, and the physical surroundings are driving this request. The fact that this is such a heavily wooded lot with those trees located where they are. The city forester did note in their memo that they were requesting that a pre- and post-construction tree preservation plan be presented, and the applicant has committed to doing that. And with regard to the memorandum that was submitted in the packet from the neighbor, and I'll let him speak for himself, all the stuff that doesn't involve 43 and 62 is irrelevant for tonight's proceeding. And again, I want to remind the board, as the arborist said, 43 is not, 43 will not survive construction, and 62 is in poor condition and is considered a hazard. The neighbor did talk about 64, which is on his property, and it will not be impacted by this project. We're available for any questions as you may have, and we're available after the neighbor speaks and the arborist speaks if you have any further questions of our team.
Member Hendrick?
So I think you probably can predict which standard I'm going to go to,
Yeah.
because you've spent some time talking about it already. But under 1D, the definition, and Jamie will appreciate this too, the definition isn't practical, it's practicable. And as crazy as that sounds, that's the word that's chosen to be written, and it does have a different definition, which basically means, I think it's fair to say, can be done. So, I guess, kind of thinking about Jamie's question too, about what if you did multi-story, you yourself have presented some schemes. Now, I get they're not practical because of the situation, but can you maybe talk to me a little bit about that standard?
Sure. Based on the testimony from the arborist, who stood here and stated that even if you rebuilt the house in its current location, these trees would not survive the construction. And that's your answer right there. You can't do anything on this lot without losing these trees, unless you're going to build a very small home, which again is not a reasonable use of this property because it's a large property that allows for a large FAR, and that it's not reasonable to be handcuffed to a small little building envelope when you have two trees that one isn't, that the arborist testified is not in good shape already, and the other one is right in the front door of the property.
So, let's say I agree with you. What if you made it your goal, though, to work within the footprint and save at least one of the two trees?
Well, we did look at that, and Nate could speak to that, because we actually spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, and I'll let Nate address that.
That's not in the packet. I actually have it on here, but we shifted everything back 7 feet to try and do that, to try and save the one in the front. And, you know, the bottom, well, the discussion we had was, sure, we could do that, and then the tree dies in a year or whatever, and the building is not on wheels, and it's back there permanently. So, and then we have less backyard.
Then you're also impacting the trees in the rear then, too, because, you're picking your poison on this one, because you have a tree that's right in front of the front door, or you have the significant tree line that's in the rear that you could see, and obviously, there's, the intent is try to protect as many trees as possible. So if you push the property back, you're probably going to lose more trees. Am I right, Nate?
You're building right on that back line of them. That's the 7-foot mark.
Theoretically, you would be saving one heritage tree, and you said it would probably die in a year, but is that what the arborists think?
The number 43, the one in front of the house, with oak trees, it can be 5 or 6 years before they die all the way, but they start into a serious decline, and it's very hard to stop that serious decline.
And so I guess, is it your opinion it's already in that decline? Is that the statement?
The front yard tree is in better shape than the backyard tree. The backyard tree is in a state of decline. 63 is in a state of decline that I don't think we'd be able to pull it out, especially with construction.
So if they pushed it back away from the front yard tree,
You'd have a better chance of saving 43, but it's a better chance.
okay.
And just notice that dotted line in the back is about 7 feet back. Look at that tree in the front, how that's, I don't know the distance, but that's 20 feet. So we're still, we're cutting into that root structure. I'll let you discuss that.
Where is, do you have one that shows the existing house front line and the new house front line on the same page? if, you know, if you push back to the existing foundation line, actually, you'd have to go beyond the existing foundation line, because your over dig for a basement's about 2 feet at the minimum. How deep is the basement gonna be in that part of the house?
Well, it's a
full basement?
It's a full basement, and we're not going up very high to get in the house for the aging in place, so we're probably going to go up 1 or 2 steps.
Okay, so you're digging down fairly deep, minimum of 2 feet over dig. So if you went 2 feet beyond the blue up there, then you would minimize the damage to that tree to relatively small. Then it's just a matter of construction vehicles driving on it, because the roots do not go under the house currently. They go up to that wall and stop. But if you start to dig into that, you're going to start to dig into serious roots. Does that make sense?
And then the house is not the size that it has designed.
Member Beck.
So I'm hearing contradictory statements, what you're saying here, as opposed to what you submitted in the packet. You're telling us that the tree in front, 43, is the tree in better condition, correct?
Yes.
And it says here, the tree labeled 43 is in poor condition, the threaded limbs falling or total collapse presents a hazard of future construction. And then at number 62, it doesn't say anything about that.
Right, well, that was written, that information they were going on was back from March of 2022.
So now 43 is in good condition?
Well, I said it's in better condition than the 62 in the backyard. You know, of the 2 trees, 43 is in better condition than 62. I'm just saying 62 is not a good tree. 43 is the better of the 2.
If I remember correctly, there's a generally accepted scale on which trees are graded.
Yeah, it's either.
How do each of these trees compare individually compared to that nationally recognized standard?
Okay, number 63 in the back is a borderline 4 on the low end, so it's almost a 5. Is Highland Park 5 or 6?
Survey that they turned in was out of 6.
Okay.
Can you come up? This is the city forester for the record.
I'm Gerald Miller, the Assistant City Forester. I did the review for this. The tree survey that they submitted was a 1 out of 6 scale. Tree 62 was listed as 3, tree 43 was listed as a 4, meaning in fair condition. If the tree was worse than that, they should have submitted a survey that noted that. Reviewing the trees, they didn't. Overall, they're in decent health.
Well,
The point I was trying to make before, if 43, according to what you submitted in the packet, was the worst tree, why not move the whole house forward and try and save 62? Because what you're saying, the alternatives, the other practicable alternatives that you explored involve moving the whole construction back. Why not move it forward and move away from 62?
It's as far forward as it's on the setback line.
Is it? Okay, well, I did not see that in the packet.
Can you just, the setback line is right where that yellow star is.
Okay.
And is that the minimum? We haven't calculated, is that the established?
That's the established.
That's the established for your setback. Yeah. So we're basically abutting the established from your setback.
Yeah, a foot or two, a foot off of that or whatever it is. Very, very close.
Vice Chair Bay?
I heard you say that if you did anything, any construction, which I'm assuming would mean expanding the existing footprint, that would likely affect the future of these trees surviving. So the question is, if you didn't do any expansion, if you just renovated the existing, I'm assuming that wouldn't have any effect on the existing tree situation.
Work.
I'm sorry?
If you did no foundation work.
Right. So if you just renovated what was there.
Yeah, that was built, I think, during the Coolidge administration or something like that. It's very old.
Well, there are a lot of old houses in Highland Park,
Well,
so it may not,
Again, there's
it's not before us.
I understand, but,
I guess I'd like to hear from our forester also.
Okay, sure.
What the likelihood is of these trees surviving if nothing was done to disturb them.
Again, there's another standard regarding the reasonable use of the property. It's a large lot, and to require to have a very small house on a large lot, is that a reasonable use of the property? I asked that question.
If that's what you bought, is it not a reasonable use of the property? If
No,
that's what
we're saying it's not, because you're entitled, if those trees didn't exist, you're entitled to build a much larger house than it currently exists. So if we waited a couple of years and those trees die, then they could build a much larger house, and we wouldn't be here.
As they bought the house, the trees were there.
But that's not one of the standards. This is not the first case that's come before the zoning board where someone bought a house and with the intent to build a new home and remove a heritage tree. If that was the standard, then that should be in chapter 94. That's not the standard.
So you're suggesting that the existing use of the lot is unreasonable?
I'm saying, yes. Yes.
If you'd like to take the floor.
Mr. Chairman, should he be sworn in?
Staff does not need to be sworn in, sir.
So the survey that I reviewed showed tree 43 being a 4, meaning in fair condition, and tree 62 being in good condition, a 3, which is a very solid tree. I'm confused why, if the condition was worse than that, I wasn't given that material to review. Both the city forester and I reviewed these trees independently and did not note that they were in declining condition. So to say now that 62 is in poor condition, borderline ready for removal, I just don't fully believe that. In addition, reviewing this, the city doesn't ask for there to be no encroachment on the tree's root zone. Typically with construction, you kind of max out, or you look to maintain less than 20 to 25% encroachment. So this is showing a full canopy if you were to disturb the whole thing. With tree protection measures, it's reasonable to assume that a tree can recover from construction. They do all the time. Another thing in listening to this, if you were to push the house back, those are key and protected trees. They aren't heritage trees. The loss of key and protected trees happens all the time for building. You replace them, they're different than 120, 130-year-old heritage trees. I didn't get any chance to review any different types of foundations. You know, several other homes have done pier foundations that limit the impact to the root zone. And I didn't get to review anything where just one tree was removed. If 62 was removed and all the access to the site was from the rear, it's reasonable to assume that you could preserve those trees in the front.
Member Zaransky.
2 questions. Did you visit the site, or are you just reflecting what you saw in the tree survey that they presented?
I visited the site 2 times.
Okay, so you were actually on site.
Yep.
And secondly, I seem to recall from a previous, these are red oaks?
Yep.
Are red oaks considered to be not as strong and healthy as other oak species, meaning, you know, any construction within that zone makes those trees more susceptible to tipping, falling, you know, an injury on site due to the species versus another kind of oak tree?
So they're known as having fair tolerance to construction, not poor. In general, they're less strong than a white oak, but they aren't a weak tree. The poplar or the cottonwood that's on the south side of the property is listed as very tolerant to construction, highly tolerant to construction, and fill impact, which happens when you dig. So, yes, they are less weak than some other species, but they aren't known as being weak and flimsy, I guess.
Weaker than...
They're weaker than some, but they're still a strong tree. An oak is a strong tree, and that's why they're heritage trees.
It just makes me nervous to force an applicant to keep a tree that could be under some stress, you know, and, you know, if we say it may make it, it may not make it, it's kind of a slippery slope, I feel, and it's just, I'm looking out for, you know, the safety and the well-being of the residents. I just wanted your take on, you know, this particular species and its likelihood of survival, but I think you kind of, you know, hit on what I was looking for, so thank you.
Okay.
Vice Chair Bay?
Yeah, to kind of expound on what Member Zaransky is saying, do you agree with the grading of the trees as you've heard them presented by the applicant tonight, or would you take exception with the grading?
I think that the grading, at worst, both of them were 4s. I think they were solid, good to fair trees. I wouldn't have looked at them and, if this was just a permit for a key or a protected tree, I would be talking to them and asking, why are you taking this down? Because I don't feel this needs to come down now. And that's kind of how I base if it's a heritage tree condition.
Thank you.
Member Trushansky?
So you disagree with the notion that tree 43 would not survive construction?
The construction that they proposed, it wouldn't survive it, but a different design that pushed it farther back, or, you talked about stacking different layers of the house. If you could push the tree farther back and explore different foundation types, it's possible that it could survive construction, depending on how much area it's actually given.
Okay.
Any other questions for the forester?
How many trees are on the site roughly?
It should be in the tree survey. So 22 are listed. 22 are listed.
And other heritage trees or just these two?
There's 4 heritage trees total, and if you look at this drawing, you can see, in addition to the 2 trees that they were looking to take out, they were looking to place a driveway underneath another heritage tree and then underneath a key tree that's 27 inches. Both of them in good condition, good to fair condition.
And just to clarify,
Member Beck?
access from the rear is not possible here, correct? I think somebody had mentioned access from the rear.
Well, they want their garage in the rear, so I think that's where it came up.
Yeah, because there's another house behind there, so,
Right.
okay. There's not an alley.
Just to clarify, I heard a lot of talk about the garage. What is a standard or substandard garage? What is the proposed garage going to be?
It's a 3-car garage.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are there members from the public who would like to speak on this matter this evening? If you'll come up to the rostrum. If you will provide your name and address for the record, sir.
Can I pass this out?
Yes.
This is on my,
I can pass it out.
Your name and address, sir?
my name's Robert Cool. I'm at 1159 Lincoln Avenue South. I'm the adjacent property to the north of the property in question.
One, thank you, sir. Do you hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, can I get a copy of this amendment?
Yes, Patrick's coming around.
Okay, thank you.
Just before you start, I just wanted to say that every material that the board has received is open to the public. If anyone is interested in seeing that, there's a copy there, yes. So just making that aware.
Gentlemen, when I was at the building department, unfortunately, I was looking at a little computer screen in more black and white. Did not have the ability to look at all of the drawings as I see right here. And looking at the scope and the size of the house, and the two trees, of course, and according to the inventory of trees, there's 22 other trees here, as you look on the list that I sent, that's attached to what I handed out. But my concern are those two trees that are in discussion tonight. It's all because of the expansion of the house and the driveway. And the driveway, if you can see where it goes literally next to the property line. And I was trying to get the distance between the edge of the driveway and the property line. Is that 2 feet, 3 feet? What is it? I can't tell. Because there's several trees along the property line tree number, I'll give you the tree number right here. There's one tree, number 54.
Sir, just so you're aware, we are only concerned about the 2 heritage trees.
Right.
That's the only thing
But
before us this evening.
You're right. It's unfortunate I can't, you were talking about the property as well. You're about the different designs of the property. So, I mean, you got me, I should be able to talk about a part of the property as well, correct?
If they were before us for other variations, a building variation, other pieces could come into the discussion.
Yeah.
But
Well-
right now, the only thing they have asked, because there's not a formal plan before us at this moment, is with regards to removing the 2 heritage trees.
What
You do
about,
have the ability to add, because you filed that piece of paper, if you have questions for the applicant, we can relay that and have them answer them as well.
okay, on the list of trees, can I talk about the others on the
Yes.
list of trees?
Go right ahead.
Okay, you have a copy of the list in front of you. It's one of the exhibits. Tree number 64. Can the arborist tell me about tree number 64? It's got a tag on it. It's a Norway maple. Tell me about it.
I would just, if that's a question for the applicant, I would know that that tree is not on the property in question.
Okay.
It's not the part of the application.
But there's a tag on the tree.
Is the tag from the city?
No, it's from Sunrise, Sunset, or something.
There was a different arborist.
Okay.
Previous inclination of someone looking to develop the property on the tag. We didn't tag that tree.
But it's tree number 64, though. Sort of follows in sequence with all the other tree numbers. So they came up with 40, 41. Someone came up with all the tree numbers. Who came up with it? Who put all the tags on?
That is not the jurisdiction
Okay.
of this board this evening.
Okay. There's a tree on city property. It's tree number 41. Let's look at tree 41. It's a Norway maple. It's on the northwest corner of the property. My guess is that the driveway is going to destroy that tree, if not directly, but by the large 6-inch roots that protrude 4 to 5 feet past the property line into where the proposed driveway is going to be. So that tree is going to die. Now, I'm concerned about the tree 64, though, because my roots on 64 leads directly into the driveway. That tree's going to die. So I'm not asking, it's just a question. How far is the driveway from the property line? I could not tell by sitting see, I was
Okay, so I
standing,
have your question. I'm going to turn to the applicant and ask, do we know the distance between the driveway and tree 64?
As laid out, the driveway, this is just a concept. These are not building plans, these have not been submitted to the city. Obviously, once they get submitted to the city, assuming we're successful in getting the variation, the building department will take a look at that. But again, what you're seeing tonight is a concept. These are not plans that have been submitted to the city.
Okay.
okay. All I know is it's double the size of the house next door, but that's, so be it. I've been there 40 years. I do all the work myself at the house. All the snow removal, the lawn, and so forth. And this house has been vacant now. The current house has been vacant now for many, many months, and nobody takes care of it. And I brought a bag of leaves to give to the owner, because the wind's coming, which way the wind's blowing, it's blowing south to north. But anyway, that's besides the point. But back to these 2 trees again. Based on the proposed drawings here that we're looking at, yeah, you have no choice but to remove those 2 trees, even though the conditions may be somewhat, debatable as whether how long they will live with, or in years going forward. So, yeah, the 2 trees should go for that proposed plan. But if the plan changes, then these trees may not disappear at all. So there should be no destruction of trees until the total project has been approved by this board or whomever. So no trees should be removed whatsoever. Am I misunderstanding something? Are these trees to be removed before the final permit is submitted?
They have decided that it is my understanding, Cal, you can correct me if I'm incorrect, basically on the way they have positioned this, they will not move forward with final plans unless they can remove the trees. So they're trying to get the tree removal first before they spend their architect's time and their money to move forward with final plans, because if they cannot remove the trees, the plan that they're working on is not possible to do.
So if the final plans are not approved,
Just a moment.
I'm sorry. If the plans are not approved, the trees will be gone. You'll be cut down. Then it's a moot point. The trees are gone, build whatever you want. While the trees are still there, the plans, you have to go before the board for full approval before you cut the trees down. Approve the plan. This is putting the cart before the horse. That doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense. This cutting these trees down is a preamble for a plan to be built. It hasn't been built yet or approved. So why cut the trees down? It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, I don't know. There's no explanation for it. Why would you want to cut the trees down before the building is being approved? Why?
He's allowed to cross-examine you, Cal, so he has submitted the form. So the question for the record is why are you removing the trees at this point rather than after you have the final plans?
I mean, we would be fine to condition any variation or order entered by the zoning board that the trees will not be removed until a building permit is received for the construction of a new home on the property. We're fine with that.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, those two trees do house the rare state squirrels, the gray squirrel and the black squirrel, and there's dozens of animals on the property. So, that eat the acorns from the trees, but those two trees, if they're gone, it's minimal in terms of impact on the animal life. So, okay, I guess the complete study has to be then evaluated when the plans are submitted again to the city for approval. Come on.
I believe Member Hendrick has a question for you, sir.
So in what you submitted to us,
Yeah, that's that tree.
there are two pictures of trees. What, are these the heritage trees or are they different trees?
No, that's both my tree number 59.
Okay, so they're different trees.
No, one tree. I gave you a picture.
Oh, well, okay.
The same tree. I showed a picture at the bottom of the tree. It's ready to fall down on my garage, which has a classic car that I bought in 1966. And if that falls down, hell has no fury.
That's the tree that's marked as dead.
Yes, exactly right. That tree should be removed sooner than later.
Whose tree is that? Your tree or their tree?
No, that's property 1145 tree.
Any other questions for the neighbor?
Why
Thank
can't
you,
they-
sir.
Yeah, why can't they cut the tree down?
Well, that's not our place.
Well, but this is,
That's for you as the neighbor to speak to your neighbor and encourage,
I don't know, I have no contact.
or
with
ask the forester. That would be another option.
I sent that to the forester on October 20th. They said, thank you, it's in writing. Nothing, it's silence. Why is there silence on a tree that's threatened to fall on a garage and damage a car? It just doesn't make sense to me, guys. Think about it, why? I give up.
I think your message has been heard. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address us this evening with regards to this application?
One more point to make. I see some neighbors here. They bought a house.
Sir, you need to speak into the microphone.
I happen to see some neighbors here. They bought a house directly across from 1145. They tore the house down, and they put in a sanctuary, so it looks like a little forest preserve. Beautiful. It really enhances the neighborhood. This house here, on the plans here, is a monstrosity. 11,000 square foot house, even though you got a large lot, it does not fit in with the rest of the homes in the community. It just doesn't. Anyway, but the sanctuary is fine. I thank you for having the foresight to save some of the community.
You all raised your hand earlier. Did you want to say anything? Would you come up to the rostrum? I don't know. Podium? Podium?
Whatever you prefer, Chair.
If you'll provide your name and address for the record.
My name's Jody Fiss. I live across the street at 11.
Patrick, can you turn the microphone down? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jody Fiss. I live across the street at 1138 Lincoln Avenue South, and Cal basically addressed my concern. I just want to make sure that all the other...
I need to swear you in, ma'am. So if, do you hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that all the other permits are issued prior demolition and that the building approvals before those trees are taken down. I don't want the trees to be taken down and then for another commission to say, well, you can't do that, and the trees are already gone. So, or the builders to change their mind and, or the, right, and the trees are gone already. So if you, as long as you just wait to make sure that everything else is approved. It's Highland Park. It takes a long time. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on this matter? Cal, did you want to respond to anything, or are we good? Thank you. In that case, I will be... Patrick?
I just want some clarity on the condition. So, what exactly are we agreeing to? I just want...
The applicant, and again, we would do this anyway because it just makes sense when we're not going to demo the home until we get the building permit for the new home, and so that will all be done at the same time. So once the building permit is issued, am I speaking out of turn, Nate? I've kind of like jumped up there and said that, yeah. It will remove, assuming the variance is granted, the trees will not be removed until a building permit is issued for the new home. I don't think I can be clear. Okay? And is that acceptable? Yeah, that's acceptable.
Thank you.
Okay.
Patrick?
Thank you. I will need to do maybe a little research on this because approving a building permit before this case might be a little difficult. But
no, we would modify the order as drafted to include a statement that says
that.
and I'll let one of my attorneys near me draft it, that says we would not, the applicant would not begin removing the trees until after all the other permits.
I gotcha. Sorry, I lost this up
You have
there.
very good lawyers on there, but a condition precedent would be before the trees can be removed, that a building permit be issued for the new home.
In plain lingo, permission would be contingent upon getting the building permit.
You're a better wordsmith than I am.
Perfect.
Different law school.
And based on the drawings, are there any other variations that the structure that may come before us in the future?
No.
Okay.
Intent is to do this by right. This is the only reason we're before the board.
Well, because the plans aren't final.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to know.
At this point, the answer is no. There'll be no other variations requested.
You need to come up here, sir. There'll only be another meeting if they come before us for a variation, which they are not currently planning to do. Patrick?
I'm sorry, can you come up and, it's because of...
Because we're recording and it's being broadcast, we need you at the microphone.
You need to be part of the record.
Thank you.
My husband just wanted to know if there's going to be other meetings as far as historic preservation or demolition, does it follow along with that?
Patrick?
This is not a historically landmarked house, so no for historic, but demolition will go through the typical process with the Historic Preservation Commission.
With staff?
Yeah, sorry.
If it's allowed, because it's not historically landmark.
Historic
They
landmark.
can, they need to get the permits to tear it down, but there's no body of city government that needs to approve it.
Yes, it'll be checked if there's any historical importance with the house.
It's within the purview of the building department when they apply for the applicable permits to determine whether or not they need anything other than just the application, if they need certain approvals from different city departments.
Okay, but as it's been discussed, the trees coming down will wait until everything else is approved.
They still have to go
That's what
through
we
the
agreed.
permitting.
Right, yeah, that's all that we were.
I would just
concerned with.
mention, just to clarify how the process would work, I just checked, the demolition permit has not been, the request for that has not been filed yet. That will trigger a city review by staff, and it will go to the Historical Preservation Commission based on what the review would be. Now, the Historic Preservation Commission can't stop the demolition, all they can do is delay.
Delay it,
Delay,
right.
that's it.
But you want to make sure that everything is done prior to
Yes.
just taking the trees
Yes.
down.
But the city will not issue a building permit if there's a delay issued by the Historic Preservation Commission. So what trigger the removal of the trees would be the issuance of the building permit.
Okay, sounds good.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Cal. Okay, I'll begin at my left with Member Trashansky.
Of course. These heritage tree cases are always the most challenging, that's for sure. I think I'm generally in favor of this. I think what I really appreciated were the various scenarios that were presented, showing that you guys actually thought through different types of designs to save the trees, and none of them were feasible. So sometimes when we see cases up here, the applicant doesn't go through all those steps, showing us all the work that they have done to get to where they are. So that helped me. I think that having your own arborist also helped. You guys have the burden. And obviously, the city's forester says one thing, your forester says another. I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the applicant here. I'm generally in favor.
Thank you. Member Zaransky.
I agree. I believe that the standards have been met. I think that based on the information that we've received, I'm of the belief that these trees are not going to survive construction, whether it be this house with this plan or variations of this plan, whether it's this applicant or a future applicant. It appears to me that the existing house, even though it does add, nice, character, and it's a nice, piece of Highland Park, I think it's kind of past its useful life, and I think a new house on this property will happen at some point, whether it's, like I said, with this applicant or a future, and I don't believe the trees would survive, and I don't want, personally, as I stated before, I don't like the risk of pigeonholing a applicant into keeping a tree that is going to severely decline its health over the next several years, likely die, possibly fall, possibly hurt somebody, and I think for this lot to reach its, maximum potential as a reasonable return, I believe that the trees need to be removed to enable them to, make the buildable footprint what it needs to be. So I support the variation.
Thank you. Member Hendrick.
I'm going to disagree with both my colleagues, and I'm going to go to the standard 1D, and the word isn't feasible, it's not practical, it's practicable. And the standards are applied per tree, and I think that I have not been persuaded. The burden of proof is on the applicant, and I don't believe the burden of proof is met, that there are no practicable alternatives. I don't think saving one tree has been explored enough, and standards are applied to each tree. I do feel for the applicant in the sense that this is a difficult situation, and I can understand why my colleagues have come out on the other side of this. But the heritage trees are there, and like I said, I'm not convinced that the burden of proof with regard to saving at least one tree has been met, and I found the city forester persuasive. I am not as convinced, I guess, as my colleagues that the trees are doomed no matter what construction takes place. So I would not be in support, and I could be in support in the future of removing one. And frankly, honestly, if alternatives with one tree taken down are presented and the city forester has a chance to review them, then I could ask the question, how likely is the other tree going to survive? And we may end up in the same place. But as of now, I cannot support the application.
Thank you. Member Beck.
I'm going to agree with Member Hendrick. 1D is not met. I think there are definitely practicable alternatives. In addition, the tree standards are layered on top of the regular standards. And I believe, a reasonable return is a subjective term. And I think you can get a reasonable return building a different structure on this property. So I'm not in favor of the application. But I will also agree with Member Hendrick that if they came back and said, well, we'll just remove one, I probably would be swayed with a different plan.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bay.
Yeah, I agree with Member Hendrick and Member Beck. I think there's a possibility that I could be at some point in favor of it, but as of right now, I don't think the burden has been met. I think it was kind of glossed over. There was some talk about moving the structure forward and saving one of the trees, and that wasn't really addressed as to why that wasn't practicable as opposed to practical. So at this point, again, being somewhat repetitive, I don't think the standards have been met. Not saying that they can't be met, but I don't think they, as of this evening, have been met.
One other thing.
Member Beck.
In a previous application from a different applicant, weren't we supposed to address the heritage trees individually?
That has always been my preference, that we address heritage trees, and we did this with the golf course.
Yeah.
Where they had 16 trees before us or something, and we went
Well,
through.
we lumped them together then because it was.
Well, but we
talked about it.
We talked about them each individually. So you're right. And because what we have before us is an order to take down both trees, we're not being given what's not before us this evening, Patrick, is an opportunity to vote yes on one and vote no on the other. What we have, which may be the way we want to move forward, but we're not sure if we were to choose A or B, it affects the plan that the applicant moves forward with. So just to lay all cards on the table, I am in agreement with Member Hendrick, Beck, and Bay, in that I am not persuaded that the practicable alternatives have not all been explored. And that there is not a practicable alternative that would potentially save one of the trees. We all know it's a roll of the dice, okay? There's a big building on walkable to here where they desperately tried to save a heritage tree on the parkway, and it didn't survive. We know that happens. But the position of the city and the way this code has been written is that, if there has to be no practicable alternative. And at this moment, it looks like, Mr. Kipnis may have designed a beautiful house. Maybe this isn't the lot that's appropriate for this house. We don't know. So maybe there are practicable alternatives that would save one of the trees and make the applicant happy with the house that they end up with. So that's where I am at the moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what is before you is removal of both trees. So if it were, it would need to be continued for another, if you just wanted to remove one tree.
If they wanted to split the trees into two different applications, would that have to be renoticed?
Patrick, did you hear,
Yeah.
for the recording, the question is whether or not if we were to, since it's currently one application to remove trees, whether or not, if it was two applications for one tree apiece, whether or not it would need to be renoticed. That might be a question for,
So,
Great
well, I'm just
counsel.
thinking of the so
Would you need two different applications,
that's
though?
fine, yeah, why would you
Just
need,
put it in the order, you could draft like
you could draft
contingent
two,
orders.
you could
yeah.
draft two contingent orders. One
that's
for
what
each
I was
tree.
gonna think. I don't think two
So
applications
then it
would be
wouldn't need to be
necessary.
renoticed.
Well, I think the application would need to specify what they're, what
Yeah.
they're requesting.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is it one, two, or both, or, in the alternative, whatever.
So if this were just to be continued, it would not need to be renoticed? Yeah.
So with that, I will ask Cal, would you like us to continue this matter to a date certain at a later date?
Yes, we would, we're going to take another bite at the apple, so to speak, and take a look, and we hear you and see if it's practical. How do you pronounce that?
Practicable.
Okay, I'm not, if it's practicable to try to preserve one of the two trees, because that's what I'm hearing from the board. I can't guarantee that, but we'll take another look at it in consultation with the city forester. I request it's December 21st. Does that get us time? Because I'm going to be here hopefully on December 21st anyway, so. It's for 21st? Okay, December 21st.
Okay, in that case, I'll entertain a motion.
Member Hedrick would make a motion to continue this until December 21st.
Second.
So that's a motion by Member Hendrick with a second by Member Bay, or Vice Chair Bay, to continue it until December 21st. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, any abstentions? All unanimously approved. Thank you. Thank you. So there will be no new notice on this matter for the next meeting. This hearing has been continued, so this is everyone's public notice.
December 21st.
Yes. Did I say something different?
No, you didn't. say
Okay. Just making sure. Patrick, is there anything on the staff report?
No, there's currently not anything on the staff report.
Thank you. Any miscellaneous items? What's our next meeting look like?
Our next meeting should be one case, that is the December 7th, I believe is the Thursday. And then the December 21st, currently there's two applications in.
Plus this one, or does that part of your two?
And so there would be three then.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm taking vacation.
You cannot.
My last meeting as chair.
Well, the vice chair should get some practice.
Nothing's,
All right.
Now, Councilmember Ross, do you have any parting words for us this evening?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for your service and.
Make a
Thank
motion
you.
to adjourn?
second.
So, right, Member Beck with Vice Chair Bay, motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, we are adjourned at 8:55 PM.